Okay, guys, welcome to the first C++ class, and it is our first class. So today our topic is about the structure of a C++ program, the structure that you need to keep in each and every program that you write in C++ language. So this is the structure here. There are some components in the structure of a C++ program. We have to cover these points, and I will also be teaching you these all practically, right? All right, so I'm using Dev C++ for writing the codes. You can try any other one, but I would recommend this one as of now. And I would suggest that you guys would also use it. It's quite reliable. And I would say something more, that if you guys have any question, you can go to the chat options and then ask your question. Thank you. And I would like to ask that, is my voice clear? Can you guys hear me? Please reply in the chat option. All right, thank you, man. So we're going to start our class by writing hash include. Whenever you start a program in C++, you have to type hash include. What does it mean? Let's study it. So what does it mean by hash include? It's a preprocessor, right? It's a preprocessor that is used to access the files in a library. We have number of files in backend of compiler, and when we want to access some of those files, then we should use hash include at the start of our program, right? In those files, we have number of functions, classes. So when we want to use those functions, right, in our program, those pre-made functions, we should include those files in our program by writing hash include, right? We should write the library name preceded by hash include, which is a preprocessor. Hash include is actually called preprocessor. So whenever you want to access, or whenever you want to use some functions that are defined in that specific library, so first of all, you should be adding those libraries into your program so that you can easily access those functions that you want to use, right? So now we have a library which is quite common, and honestly we use it almost in every program, which is iostream. So it is a library which contains number of files, like we have number of libraries in C++ like string library, but iostream is commonly used, right? So it is a library which contains number of files, right? We add it in our program in order to use those files defined in this library. For example, if you want to use the function that are defined in iostream library, right? We should add this library in our program. For example, if you want to use cin function or cout function, we should first include this library in our program. So let's just do it. How can we add those libraries in our program? So as you can see, this is preprocessor and this is the library name, right? You have to type it in this syntax. You have to enclose it in angle brackets, and there should be library name. So iostream. So I added this library because I want to use some functions that are defined in iostream library. So now I have successfully added the library. Now there's a second thing that I should be doing, which is using namespace. Using namespace std, and then semicolon should be put at the end of the line. So what is meant by using namespace std? Let's check it out. As you can see on the screen, What is namespace? It is a command which is used to add a specific block of code from the imported library. Well, for example, I have a library called iStream. It contains many functions and many variables and so on. So if I want to get, or if I need a specific block, right, a specific block of that lengthy library, I should be using namespace, right? So let me give you an example here so that you guys can easily understand. Let me demonstrate it. This is the library, for example, iStream. It has, many lines of code, many functions, and there's a function that is called, for example, STD, right? STD, like it's defined in STD. There's CN and Cout, right? There are a number of lines having different functions, and I want to use cin or cout in my program. You guys will learn about cin and cout later on, but this is just an example of using namespace std, right? Why did I write using name std? So now I'm explaining this, right? So for example, a library iStream, there are a number of lines having different functions, and there's a block in which cin and cout functions are being defined. So I should write that using namespace std. When I write std, I actually direct the program, I direct the compiler that I want to use these functions, I want to use those lines in my code that are defined under the std block. This is why we using namespace std. Is there any question till now? If you guys have any question up to this point, you guys can go to chat option and ask your question. Thank you. And if there are no questions, we should move on to the next point. Now I have covered 2 points. I'm going for the third one. Right. All right, what is the cin and cout? As I said earlier, that you should learn about it, cin and cout later. Cin and cout have different functionalities that you should be learning in upcoming classes. And yeah, I should be using cout in this session, but cin should be in the next session. So don't worry about it. I know most of you guys are beginners, so this is kind of a headache to understand this, but bear with me. This isn't that hard as you guys think of it, right? So now I'm going to make my main function. What is this? You have to write main and then parentheses, empty parentheses, and then you will have to write curly braces. So this is the main body, right? From here to down below, down here, this all is called main body or the main function of a C++ program. So let's know about it. Let's learn about it. What is the main function in a C++ program? This function has to be written in each and every program. As I said earlier, these things you have to include in your each and every C++ program. So let's talk about main function. What is main function? It is the starting point. It is the starting point of the program execution. Whenever we run this program, this is the starting point. The compiler will be looking for main function. When the compiler finds the main function, it will start executing whatever is being written inside the main function. So you can call it the starting point of a program. From here, the execution starts. And how many lines are being written here? All are being executed till the end. Line by line are executed, right? So you will have to know about flow of control later on, but now I'm just saying that whatever you write in this body, here's your main purpose. Like whatever you want to do in your program, whatever problem have you got and you want to solve it, so you have to between these two braces, okay? So this is the main function, and main function is actually called the starting point of a program, or the executing point. Yeah, executing point of a program. The execution or the running of the program starts from here. You have to know about it, right? This is the main function, and you have to make your main function in each program. And this collectively, you can call it header file. And when you have imported more libraries, then these are collectively called header files. So for now, I have just one, which is header file. This thing is called header file. This is preprocessor, and this is the library name that I have just included in my program because I want to use some of the functions that are being defined in iStream library at the backend of the compiler. Right? Is there any question? If you guys have any question, you can ask. You can go to the chat option and ask your question. Thank you. Now we are learning about comment, right? What is a comment? Comments are lines which are ignored by the compiler. Whatever you write in a comment that are ignored, that are completely ignored by the compiler. So now the question arises, how compiler will know that this is a comment and this is the real code? So whenever you write 2 slashes, the compiler ignore that line. This is how a compiler knows this is a comment and this is a real code. We will learn about adding comments in our program later on. But for now, I'm going to use a function. I'm going to use an object which is used to display something on screen, which is very common. You will have to use it almost in every program, that is cout. You have to write down cout, and then this operator, this operator is called, you can call it insertion operator, then use double quotes, right? Double quotes, and whatever message you want to give to the user, whatever you want to display on the screen, you just have to write it down. For example, I will write hello world. This is it. And then you will have to use a semicolon. This is called a terminator symbol, or simply terminator. You will have to use this in almost every line. At the end of the line, you will have to use semicolon. If I don't put semicolon, I will get an error. So when I run this code, what output I'm going to get is that I will only get hello world on my screen, right? So let's compile this program and run it. But let me talk more about cout, right? Cout is an object or function through which you can display something on the screen. Whatever you put in these double quotes will be displayed exactly the same to you on the screen. So that's how, or that's why we use cout. Right? And now let's run this program. So before you run this program, you need to compile it. So how to compile it? You can see at the top option, there's execute tab. Just click on it and there's a compile button. And the shortcut for compile button is F9. So now my program is being compiling. Yeah, it's being compiled and I've got 0 errors, mean that my program is totally fine. So now I will have to run it. Okay, now I'm going to execute option. There's a run button. The shortcut for run button, run option or command is F10. So I will press F10. And now as you can see on the screen, I've successfully made my first program in C++, which is hello world. As you can see, I've just made my first program. Whatever I write between those double quotes, it will be displayed on the screen, right? You can also add digits inside of these double quotes. For example, hello world 1, 2, 3. And now let's compile it again and run it. There is a direct option, compile and run. It will compile your code and also run your program. So as you can see, as I change inside those double quotes, the result was also being changed. Now you can see hello world 1, 2, 3 on the screen. So that's how we display something on the screen. Now I'm going to talk about comments, right? So you can type comments here. Like as I said earlier, you have to type down double slashes and then add your comment. For example, I would say this is used to display something on the screen. So this is the comment. So if I run this program, the compiler will not execute this line. This line from here to here will not be executed because this is a comment. And how a compiler knows? A compiler knows a comment by double slashes. So let's run this program again. Let's compile it and see what should be the result. So as you can see, the result is the same after adding the comment because this comment is being ignored by the compiler. So what is the purpose of comments? Actually, comments give you reliability. Like if somebody is going to read your code, they can easily read it. And even for yourself, it's good for you when you will be writing lengthy codes and then you just like lose yourself. So we do comments, right? Just to make the things clear. Like as I have written here, this is used to display something on screen. So whenever you make your program like kind of in blocks, you kind of define or you just give a slight idea about that block, that what this line or this block actually does. So this is why we use comments. Now let's talk about using namespace std again, because somebody just asked me in the chat option. So using namespace std means that in the iStream library, I have many lines. I have many functions, right? I have many blocks of codes, but I'm referring to std. There's a block under std, right? And in that block, cout and cin functions are being defined. So I just don't want to load the entire file. I don't want to load the entire library because I just want to use cout and cin in my program. So why should be loading all those things, right? Why should I be loading all those lines of code, that thousands of codes that are being written in iStream library? So that's why I just direct that. Like I just give us indication that I want to use whatever is just being written under std block. So that's why we direct the compiler that I want to use whatever is being written or the block that is down below the std. There are a number of blocks. Like when you find std, down below cout and cin functions are being defined. So you don't have to write code for cout. Like it's pre-made. You just have to write down cout and then that function will be called from that file, that library, right? From std block. This that file or that lines of code will be called. So when you just type down cout and then extraction operator, whatever you write down in double quotes, it will be displayed to you on the screen. So this is actually the structure of a C++ program. Whenever you are writing a C++ program, you will have to follow this pattern. You have to keep these things in mind because these are common entities. So this was all for now. We have just only 4 participants in our class. This session will be uploaded on our YouTube channel. So if some of our students have missed the class, they can rewatch the entire session on our YouTube channel. So don't worry about it if some of students have missed this class. Thank you for watching. And if still there are some questions, you can still ask your questions. I'm going to give you some time for it. So go and ask your questions. After that, I will be winding up this session.